Hello there, this is Nanto Gias, and today I have something a little different. I'm going to be responding to Meti's video regarding Silver Chariot's speed, since there are quite a few points that I disagree with. Before I start this, I want to say that I have been watching Meti for well over a year and am subscribed to his content. But that is why I feel like this video could have been done better, especially since there are quite a few mistakes here that aren't just power scaling related. And I would like to debunk his claim of Silver Chariot not being light speed. I'll be cutting out the unimportant parts, so if you want to see the full video to check that I'm not taking him out of context, the link is in the description. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin.
So before we can begin to lab out Silver Chariot's actual speed, we need to address the elephant in the room. His speed has actually been called into question a few times by readers throughout the series due to a couple of scenes, two in particular standing out in people's minds as they take place in the same arc. One in which Polnareff tries but fails to slice Hull Horse's stand bullet, even though he had his armor off at the time, which so happens to happen during the same arc where Polnareff seemingly cuts at the speed of light with his armor on. These appear to be complete inconsistencies on the part of Araki, but this is only true if you view them without their full context. So let's view them within their context, starting first with the most egregious claim, that being
This part isn't Meti's main argument, but I want to quickly answer this question raised by the JoJo community. While it does seem inconsistent at first glance, this is only under the assumption that Hull Horse's bullet is lower than Hangman, or that it is only bullet level, which we have no reason to assume since he was a threat to the Crusaders, who are definitely above bullet level.
So let's view them within their context, starting first with the most egregious claim, that being Silver Chariot is faster or as fast as the speed of light. He's not. Far from it, actually. But you might ask then, how is Polnareff able to cut Hangman, as Hangman moves at the speed of light? Well, it's actually explained by Polnareff himself, as he isn't really attacking, but more positioning himself correctly to slice Hangman while he's on a very predictable direct path to the next reflective surface that he needs to go to, which is somewhat of a trivial task for Silver Chariot and Polnareff given their amazing precision. So lining up this needle point attack to something that you know is coming in a direct pattern ain't too difficult. So as long as Polnareff knows where the stand will go, he can easily move into position, even with Chariot's armor on, before Hangman is forced to move to the next surface. So this was more Polnareff outthinking Hangman's own weakness, and not him moving faster than the speed of light, since doing that is literally impossible. Also, some people claim that
There's a lot of claims in this section, so I'll tackle them one by one. I agree that Polnareff outthinking Hangman was the deciding factor in the fight, but he still needed to be at least sub-relativistic to actually carry out his plan. Think of it like catching a bullet even if you know where it's headed. While it is possible if you're not bullet level, you still have to be near bullet level to pull it off. Also, this section seems pedantic since he is still attacking Hangman, and by our own argument, Silver Chariot was moving even faster since he needed to position himself, then slash. Both the manga and the anime showed Silver Chariot slicing the beam of light midway through its path, so he needed to be light speed. His precision is only really needed to aim at the beam of light. Polnareff has also been shown reacting to Hangman traveling between surfaces, so why wouldn't he be at least sub-relativistic? Polnareff needed to use this strategy as he was surrounded by people and couldn't really swing his sword while Hangman was dodging around and attacking them. The coin trick was so that Hangman couldn't attack them since Polnareff and Kakyoin wouldn't be reflected in the eyeball, and so that there's only one surface to move to, not that they couldn't keep up. Seth the Programmer talked about this in more detail in his Jotaro vs Kenshiro debunk video, which I will link in the description with the timestamp. Finally, the traveling faster than light is impossible argument doesn't really work, because 1. Star Platinum exists, 2. It's a series with magic sunlight karate, so why would you draw the line here, and 3. It's not our reality, so the same laws of physics may not be unbreakable in that universe.
Silver Chariot was able to keep up or nearly outpace Star Platinum, who in Part 6 is claimed to be able to attack at the speed of light. What people fail to mention with this is that both Silver Chariot's attacks were physically enhanced by Anubis' ability, which also made Polnareff the human as fast as Star Platinum, because it simply just matches up against the speed of its opponent, but also Jotaro.
This is a misunderstanding of Anubis' ability. The way Anubis works is not that it enhances the capabilities of its user, but that the user allows for Anubis to unleash its capabilities. Anubis is controlling them, not enhancing them. The fights were with Anubis and not his master. In Anubis' first appearance, he was moving on his own to attack people without the wielder's input. And in the first fight, Polnareff comments how amateurish the user was despite Anubis being a master swordsman. So it's clear that the user's ability is not enhanced, and that Anubis is just using them as a means to move. It makes no difference if an amateur, a master swordsman, or just a disembodied arm is holding Anubis. Its speed is still the same. And Anubis even refers to the dual wielding as Silver Chariot and Anubis, two swordsmen and not one. So it's not enhancing Polnareff at all. Polnareff is allowing Anubis to move to match Star Platinum. So it is more accurate to say that Star Platinum was fighting two stands at that time.
Hero was explicitly holding back in this fight. He makes mention of it himself. So no, Silver Chariot is not faster or as fast as the speed of light. So with that understood, it makes
I agree that this shouldn't be used as a main argument that Armored Silver Chariot is light speed as Star Platinum was fighting 1v2 here. However, in your own evidence, Jotaro says that he has to fight at full strength or he will die. Plus, he's talking about Anubis before Chariot was even brought out. In the manga, he was shown as being overwhelmed by both of them, and if you use the anime's interpretation, he was afraid of an unarmored Silver Chariot.
Makes the scene with Whole Horse outmaneuvering Silver Chariot a little bit less jarring, though not much more. We'll get into that in a second. But this scene does help us with one thing. Polnareff was confident enough to challenge a bullet head-on, which leads us to understand that he believes that Silver Chariot possesses a speed greater than that of a bullet, though assumedly only with its armor off, as he points out specifically that he needs to take his armor off, though Polnareff didn't know.
You're ignoring the scene leading up to this where Whole Horse told Polnareff what Dio said about him, that Polnareff underestimates his opponents, which Whole Horse can take advantage of. Therefore, Polnareff took off his armor to play it safe, not that he analyzed the gun and calculated its speed against Chariot.
Oh boy, does it go beyond that. Though before we do too deep a dive on armorless Silver Chariot, we should still respect the rather impressive armored version, as it is able to still block laser-based projectiles from the sun, though the measurement of
I'm not sure why you included this, since it goes against your entire argument. Lasers are light speed, so Chariot deflecting them is a light speed feat, especially since there were multiple and he was caught off guard. There wasn't even an attempt to disprove that it is light speed, which wouldn't work since Joseph has seen actual lasers in Battle Tendency. I wouldn't have even remembered this fight had you not brought it up. There's shooting yourself in the foot, and then there's straight up deep-throating the barrel.
One speed isn't solely based on the reaction time or how fast they can throw a punch, but more so how quickly they can get from one place to another. And Silver
Yes, there is a difference between reaction speed, combat speed, and travel speed. But combat speed is usually what people talk about when it comes to Silver Chariot and most versus matches in general. And while those three speeds are distinct and cannot be used to accurately gauge the other speeds, i.e. you can't use travel speed to determine combat speed, since it can only give you a rough estimate. I don't really have much of an issue with this part of the video. I could nitpick that Polnareff says his range was a meter, but that's more Araki being inconsistent about the range of stands and not Meti's fault. Another thing to note is that the Crusaders likely have much stronger eyesight than regular people since they scale to Jotaro and Joseph, Star Platinum being light speed and Joseph being comparable to cars.
And given that stands don't adhere to the same laws of physics as humans do, and not him moving faster than the speed of light, since doing that is literally impossible. One might ask, why is there such a drastic difference between the two speeds of Silver Chariot? Well, it's likely because Araki didn't think this all the way through, at least down to the exact measurements.
You do know your measurement of Armored Silver Chariot was based off the anime? Of course Araki didn't think that through. And it's travel speed anyway and doesn't mean that his combat speed isn't faster. Plus we are talking about anime time, which is pretty inconsistent. I think this is a good place to stop. The rest of the video doesn't present any new arguments against Silver Chariot's speed, and there isn't much evidence against Whole Horse having a faster reaction speed, or the bullet dodged on its own, or that this was just plot-induced stupidity. I mainly wanted to cover the Silver Chariot portion since they were done rather poorly. I hope this video helps convince some of you of the speed of Silver Chariot, and if it did, please consider leaving a like and subscribing for more power scaling content. Once again, no disrespect to you, Meti, I just wanted to address some of your arguments. This is Nantogiyas, signing out. Oh, and go by Simonetta.